Hi, my name is Dan Stevens, and I chose to do my presentation on The Fall of the House of Usher by Edgar Allan Poe. Edgar Allan Poe was an American writer who lived in the first half of the 19th century. He's best known for his stories of horror and death and the macabre and the great detail and emotion that he put into those stories. Poems and short stories alike. Things like The Raven, The Count of Monte Cristo, The Telltale Heart, the Cask of Amontillado, which we'll read here in a couple of weeks in the class. So, The Fall of the House of Usher was published in 1839. It's a story that is told by a narrator who goes to stay with an old friend. This old friend's name is Roderick Usher, and he gets a summons because his old friend is suffering from an unknown disease and wishes to see him before he passes. Over the course of the story, Poe is very detailed about the affliction. That it produces hypersensitivity of the senses, and it's maddening. They never give an actual name to the affliction, but they're very detailed about the course of it. Also, the state of the house, the atmosphere that the narrator is experiencing, all very detailed and all driven to a very specific purpose to build the fear and the unsettledness of the reader as he goes through it. These are things that Poe excels at with the emotion, fear, and guilt, and runs throughout many of his stories. To go on, it explains early on that Usher's sister is gravely ill. And later we're told that she has died. The Usher and the narrator entomb the sister in the family crypt in the house, but something just continually makes him uneasy over the course of the next week, and we later find out that Usher not only has buried his sister alive, but knows that he has. So, in the climax of the story, of course, she returns and kills her brother. The narrator runs from the house just as it falls. So we literally and figuratively have the fall of the House of Usher, with the last two remaining members of that house dying as the structure itself falls. So you could compare the fall of the House of Usher to the other work from Edgar Allan Poe, which we have not yet read, but we will here in a few weeks, the Cask of Amontillado. The same detail in the atmosphere, in the dank cellar of the wine cellar, and the idea of burying someone alive are present in both. I don't want to give too much away about the story, but things in both the Fall of the House of Usher and the Cask of Amontillado, pieces are taken literally and figuratively at the same time. Another good piece that we have read this year that we could compare the Fall of the House of Usher to would be The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. I chose this as my comparison because it has a lot of the same elements as well. The apparent mental illness of the narrator in The Yellow Wallpaper, which is why she's in the room, as compared to the mental illness of Roderick Usher in The Fall of the House of Usher. And then the fall aspect as well are both present there. The Ushers have it literal; the house literally falls, as well as the last of their line at the end of The Yellow Wallpaper. You could consider the narrator's fall into madness. So I found that was a good piece that had a lot of good comparisons as well. So I do recommend The Fall of the House of Usher to anybody who has not yet read it. I've always been a fan of Edgar Allan Poe, which is why I chose the story. But it has such great elements that Poe is known for. The building up the fear and the emotion and all of those aspects to really draw the reader into what the narrator and the characters are seeing and feeling, is the reason to read Poe. If I was to pick one thing about it that really kind of summed it up, late in the story, Roderick Usher says that I feel that the period will sooner or later arrive when I must abandon life and reason together, and in some struggle with the grim phantasm, fear. And that's really sums up the whole story, that the entire story is a struggle with fear, and eventually both the character and the reader have to get into that fear that's part of the